I'm Tanya Moore, one of the MSW interns here at Fresno City College, and along with my colleague Donna Lutz, we'll be presenting Finding Yourself in a Shifted World. Next slide, please. So, as you can see, the pandemic has had a lot of different effects. It's still being studied, and it will be for some time to come. And here are a few significant types of impact, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. You can see that there are some increases in anxiety and depression, an increase in suicide, obesity and unhealthy eating habits, and a lot of people did not get a lot of physical activity. Next slide, please. There is some impact on specific populations, such as essential workers. So when we think of essential workers, we think of doctors, nurses, even grocery store clerks, people that had a lot of direct impact during the pandemic direct contact with people during the pandemic. But what we want to look at is, in addition to frontline workers, that there are a lot of professions that were hard hit by the pandemic, other professions. So obviously education, including colleges and universities, we're still trying to manage the overall effects of the pandemic. And you could see this by some classes being offered on Zoom, some office hours being offered remotely, and some programs just entirely switching indefinitely to a remote setting. This could make balancing the home school work life pretty difficult at times. Next slide, please. So there's impact on specific populations, and the pandemic was hard on most people. However, it is especially critical to note that there are pre-existing disparities amongst marginalized and underrepresented populations that exacerbated the effects of the pandemic. And it's because these communities were already hard hit prior to the world shutting down. And as you can see in the African American community with COVID, there were increased death rates. And as you look at people of color, you notice that there is some difference in housing, things that were present before the pandemic. So the pandemic just exacerbated those situations. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Donna Lutz.
So we're here to talk about our shifted world, but before we keep going, let's go back. Let's go back and reflect on our world and take a moment to look at January 2020, before our shutdown. Think about what you were doing. What did your normal day look like to you? What was your ritual? Getting up in the morning, getting your coffee, doing a workout at the gym, getting kids ready to school, getting yourself up and ready for work or school, both physically and mentally. Think about New Year's, getting over the holidays, making New Year's goals. Some of us might have been relieved that the holidays were over, but ready to turn a new page. What did you do during this time? Did you enjoy a mini vacation or a cruise? We were on winter break, some of us that were in schools. Did anything significant happen during these times? We could have had a new baby, a marriage, a new job, or perhaps during the time, a loss of a loved one. And you remember what life was doing then. How were you feeling? The predictability of your daily routine and how you handled adversity, life challenges, or even stressors. Listen to your story back then. What is it telling you about what you valued at this time? And then it hit. March 2020, and we were shutting down. This is LA. I'm not sure if any of you have driven in LA, but to have one car in the freeway is pretty unusual. Traffic down there is usually pretty bad. At that time, right when we shut down, it wasn't panic. Not initially. But then some of those things did start to hit. We became uneasy and things started flying off the shelf. Remember the toilet paper or the beans or the rice or the household cleaners. At this time, the true seriousness was probably settling in, and we had our stay-at-home orders. As we begin, let's take a little bit of an inventory of what was lost. We were reevaluating our situation. There could have been some uncertainty about what was happening, our recognition of restrictions. We all had face masks. There was limits on supplies. There was travel shutdowns and plans that were made suddenly canceled. Some of us were essential workers and we had no choice but to go to work. We experienced those lockdowns, not just in restaurants, but businesses and schools, and the isolation, especially for the elderly who were alone. In addition, our normal routines were disrupted for some of us. We had to shift or recreate how and what we did. Zoom became a household name along with some teams. It was disorienting. Some things moving faster than we could comprehend, and some things not moving at all. And the grief. So much of the nation and the world was grieving about many things. And in addition to the loss of life, our way of living that we once took for granted was now gone. These smaller everyday losses added up and they built on one another. What was a minor issue now became all consuming. Just think of the toilet paper. My slides. So let's take a look at how we processed our loss. There's been an increase in mental health and anxiety. The World Health Organization just released recently that there's been an increase by 25% of prevalence of anxiety and depression in Americans. And they further recommend that anyone who is younger than 65 to have a mental health assessment. They're also calling for new measures to tackle mental health issues at work. Researchers have also observed an increase in substance use and drug overdoses since the United States has shut down from the pandemic. We've witnessed and experienced tension and civil unrest. The lockdown, panic, impact of unemployment, the public health crisis that were experienced in no other times in our life before. There's been further anguish and outrage over systemic racism and inequalities. We can just say George Floyd or Breonna Taylor and know exactly what the circumstances were. There was anger over systemic racism, which collided with the pandemic racism. It further heightened our awareness and focus on racial inequalities. Not only institutional racism, such as the healthcare or the mental health system or social services or the prisons, but racism across our country, in our workplace, in our neighborhoods. We've experienced strain on our relationships, and it's important to understand the role of our social support, our adjustment to remote work, and work-life conflict. We are social beings, and the lockdown created social isolation. We also experienced loss of loved ones. In a recent study, it's shown that many of us who have lost a loved one are experiencing significant dysfunctional grief and coping with our loss by abusing alcohol or drugs, or being disabled by our grief and being highly depressed or anxious. But here's some tools. So as we move through time, we recognize we have lost. And it's important to allow ourselves that time to grieve our loss. So here's some tools, a model. It's called Tears by Dr. Christina Hebert, and it provides 5 different options to allow us to grieve. The T is for talking. Sometimes we want to just isolate ourselves. But if we find healing by talking to others or being with family and friends or support, sharing in that grief, we know that we're not alone. E is for the exercise, physical exercise. It's powerful and it's a tool that can help us release emotions. It can reduce aggressive feelings. It can release tension, anxiety, and relief from depression. Artistic expression. For many of us, grief is best expressed creatively through art or music, dance, or baking. It's a powerful tool, not just for adults, but also for children as well. And then R for recording our emotions and experiences. Similarly, we can express our emotions through journaling, writing, or recording. We're better able to gain insight and understanding. And S is for sobbing. There's healing power in allowing our tears to flow for the loss. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of power, of human connection. And I believe there's power in having just a good cry. And also, crying allows us to release cortisol, which when built up in our body can cause physical and emotional stress. So have you ever as we've gone through the pandemic, have you ever asked yourself, what's real? What is really happening? I want to go and do some chats or have you just write it down for yourself, but ask yourself this question or post this question. What changed in your life? Did anything change? Think back to January 2020 and come forward. What have you shifted? What routines have changed? What was important then? And what did you lift up as a priority now? What was our core value that came about as a priority? This is an acknowledgement and recognizing that shift that's had to happen. We remember face masks and the lack of. A lot of us sewed our own face masks. Some of us baked bread, maybe too much bread. I think of this as the freshman 15. They talk about freshman 15 when they go off to college and they gain 15 pounds. I think of the pandemic as the 19, gaining 19 pounds because we did so much cooking and baking. While some of us made our own hand sanitizer because there was shortage in the store as well. There was a shift. What became important? Keep in mind that things we initially identified as important shifted based on our value we held in them and what are our now new values. With this shift, it's allowed us time to reflect on what was important and changes and hold them up as priority. And how have we changed? What have you removed? What have you added? And have we all reevaluated our new reality and developed a new sense of work life as a safe place? And then we're looking at transitions. We want to think about the challenges we were going through, the transitions that needed to be made, not just in the beginning, but those transitions that were continuous. And at the time we were getting messages of what to do and what not to do. And those messages evolved and changed, like the public health policy recommendations. Some of us were monitoring the infectious spread. We were tracking the death toll It was also a time of political turmoil. Our capital was attacked. This created an atmosphere of unpredictability. Now let's do a little exercise here too, losing ourselves. What does this mean? During this time, our footing wasn't secure. What did that feel like for you? Write that down or put it in chat if you want. Write down what it means to have lost yourself. What did it feel like? What did it look like? Were you secure at the time? Did you have a sense of safety? Think about it physically, emotionally, and cognitively. And then once again, go to find yourself. What does that look like? To reinvent yourself or reestablish what your values were. There's a recognition that there was a void. It presented itself in the process that we had to go through to change our sense of self and redefining ourselves. Have we enhanced our self-care and have we loved ourselves through the process? And establishing a sense of safety moving forward. We have done so much. And where's our sense of safety? Have we reestablished our own support systems, examining what we did have, and did we create new ones? And I'd like to leave with this quote before I turn it back to Tanya, is always remember that your present situation is not your final destination. The best is yet to come.
Thank you, Donna.
Mhm.
So despite all of the negative things that happened from the onset of the pandemic, there have been some positive some opportunities for positive changes and opportunities to develop healthier habits. And during today's presentation, we're just going to look at 3 healthier coping mechanisms. We'll look at identifying and affirming core values, setting healthy boundaries, and managing relationships. Next slide, please. What are core values? Core values are a set of measures or standards that enable us to assess decision-making. And as you can see, they permit us to do some things like achieve meaning, build better relationships, problem solve, set goals, both professional and personal. I like to think of core values like the ingredients of a recipe. While some people might add their own twist to it, there are always going to be essential elements that are present. Next slide, please. So as we're looking at the significance of identifying and affirming core values, it's important to note that they give us a positive influence on ethical decision-making. Core values also strengthen a sense of purpose, which for some people could buffer anxiety and improve stress management. They also enhance our risk awareness and management, and they're conducive to a broader worldview. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to take time to just conduct a short mindfulness activity. And this is designed to help you start identifying some core values. So it'll take a moment. If you want to grab a piece of paper, or if you'd like to just open the notes app on your phone or notes feature on your phone, that's fine. And if you don't have any paper, that's okay too. But right now, what you want to do is just kind of take a deep breath and ground and center. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can just keep taking a couple of deep breaths. You want to think about a time in your life when you were most happy. As you're thinking about that time in life when you're most happy, who are you with? What were you doing? What did it look like? Then you'd like to Identify a specific time when you felt proud and fulfilled. As you're thinking about that time when you felt proud and fulfilled, what gave you that sense of purpose? Now reflect and concentrate on the words and feelings that come to mind. Just take a couple of seconds to think about those words, those feelings that come to mind. When you think about when you're happy, when you felt proud, when you felt fulfilled, and you just want to write those down. Just write down as many words that come to mind. Just take 5 or 10 seconds and let's do that. As you've done that, you should start to see some core values that kind of stand out, because different things are going to come up for different people. If spending time was something that came up when you felt happy or fulfilled, that's a core value. If spending time in nature was something that came up as you're looking at your core values, that's a core value. If working out at the gym came up, that could be a core value. The idea with this activity is to think of those things that give you a sense of meaning and purpose. As I said, it could be spending time with family, friends, loved ones. But what you want to think about are how these values make you feel about yourself. And do they reflect what you stand for? Next slide, please. So moving on to boundaries. There are different types of boundaries, and each one serves its specific purpose. Next slide, please. What's important about boundaries is being clear about what they are, because it helps people be clear about your limits. Being clear about your boundaries also enable you to decide who you want in your life, who you might not want in your life, what activities that you want in your life. But the idea about boundaries is for them to help you get a deeper sense of purpose from your core values and set those parameters. Here's a short video clip to further explore the importance of setting boundaries.
I heard that you learned in the process to be able to say, no, I'm not able to do that, which I'm going to take that line from you. No,
Yes.
I'm really not able to do that.
That is my no is a complete sentence, which is I'm sorry, no, I'm not able to do that. And that's all I say. And it's really hard to say that to people. It's very interesting how, I don't know, wired we are to tell somebody 1,000 reasons why we can't do something for them. You know, you say, I can't do it because of this and this, and as if you're required
To defend your niceness.
Yes,
your
to defend
nicehood.
it.
Yes.
Right, yeah, I'm a good person.
I'm a good person.
Nice.
I want you to think I'm nice, and so I'm going to tell you why, all the reasons why. So you got that. You figured that out.
When people are giving you counsel and people are giving you advice, the vast majority of counsel that you'll get is coming from a place of love and from a place of peace.
Yeah.
But then understand at that end, you have to make that decision and be perfectly comfortable with the decision that this is in the best interest of me and where I am right now.
Yeah.
And one thing we know about all the decisions that we make is you are never going to make a decision that 100% of the people say that's a great decision.
Ain't that the truth?
Never.
Yeah.
And that's okay. The thing I then try to lean on is don't let people that don't matter too much matter too much. We're worried about what X person thinks or what Y person thinks. I'm like, why do they have so much influence over your decision making of your life?
Yeah.
Because the decision that you make is not going to impact them, nor is anything they do should it impact you. So don't let people that don't matter too much matter too much.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So as we're looking at boundaries, one of the boundaries we're looking at are physical boundaries. And as you're looking at physical boundaries, you really want to be aware of physical proximity, like what makes you feel comfortable. And as you're looking at what makes you feel comfortable, you also want to be cognizant of your body language and your communication and the messages that you may be kind of giving off to other people. Because during the pandemic, things changed drastically. As Donna mentioned earlier, things like mask requirements, formal and informal social distancing really affected how we interact with other people. So this is something to be mindful of. And especially in regards to core values, for some, physical safety is very important. And if that's one of the things that's important to you as a core value, make note of that. Next slide, please. So in regards to setting emotional boundaries, you're not useful to yourself or anybody else if you're burnt out. And it's important that you leave something in the tank for you and those that you love, or to spend time doing things that you want to do. So when you're looking at emotional boundaries, remember that communication is key. You want to set limits with other people, and you especially want to be gentle with yourself. It starts by letting other people clearly know what you need clearly. Once you've done that, stay firm. You might decide, I don't want to take on this project, or I might want to limit my role in what I do. That it's important for you to start putting yourself first and think about what you need. And sometimes the boundaries that you set are with yourself. So if you're an anxious person like myself, you might want to give yourself 10 minutes a day to be anxious and say, okay, for 10 minutes, I'm just going to worry, set a timer. And when that's done, it's done. Kind of get it out of your system. You might even want to take it a step further. And at the end of that 10 minutes of worrying, write it down. You might start to see some patterns develop. But the key to this is to be kind to yourself, first and foremost. Next slide, please. So saying no and being assertive is an important skill. As you can see, the research shows that there is a correlation between good mental health and being assertive. Self-esteem and communication skills reinforce the idea of being assertive. And remember, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself first as needed. As stated in the video earlier, no is a complete sentence. Next slide, please. So I'm sorry to report, there's really no such thing as effective multitasking. The research indicates that distraction actually decreases productivity. So you want to keep that in mind when you're trying to do all of those different things. And that's really difficult in today's world because of all the electronics and everything kind of being online. You just want to unplug. And technology could sometimes bleed into your home, school, work life. So it's important now more than ever to establish those boundaries. Some things you might want to consider. You might want to consider using the do not disturb setting on your phone. And of course, while driving, there are apps that'll actually restrict your screen time. There are wellness apps that remind you to unplug and wind down. Some of them even have like, well, the lights will dim or other things to kind of trick your brain to get you to wind down. You might even want to consider dedicating a completely digital free area in your home. That'll allow you to disconnect. And when all else fails, you could always go old school, write things down on a calendar or a Post-it note, if that's going to help you further unplug. Next slide, please. So there are different types of relationships. Some are professional, some are acquaintance relationships, group members, family and intimate relationships. But they all have been shown when they're healthy to increase your overall satisfaction with life, increase happiness, make deeper connections. Think about all of the personal interactions that we took for granted before the pandemic. Things like having lunch with a friend or being able to hug a loved one. Throwing a birthday party in person, things that we took for granted. For some of us, as Donna mentioned earlier, it was being able to grieve or bury those closest to us. My grandmother died just after the lockdown ended. And unfortunately, we had to take turns sitting with her in the hospital. If she would have passed just a few months prior than when she passed, we would have had the challenging experience of having a Zoom funeral like millions of other people had to. So please don't take those interactions for granted. Next slide, please. So when it comes to managing relationships, conflict happens, and conflict will likely occur in most relationships at some point. The key with conflict is how you manage the conflict, not necessarily the conflict itself, but how you manage it. And things to keep in mind with improving the quality and longevity of your relationships is that transparency and authenticity is key. So honesty, openness are the building blocks of effective communication. Also, inspiration, positive enforcement, and encouragement go a long way. And in regards to emotional intelligence, dealing with conflict and negative thoughts is vital. Next slide, please. So in regard to managing relationships and strategies, things to think about are planning ahead. So you'd like to start prioritizing who you want to spend your time with, what you want to do, whether it's remote, like FaceTime or on Zoom, or if it's in person, taking a walk or getting together with friends. You want to collaborate on the time that's good for everybody. Secondly, in regards to building a routine, try to pick a time to meet and stick to it. It could be through regular phone calls, it could be study sessions over coffee. Again, hikes. A lot of people were hiking during the pandemic. Video calls. The idea here is to build rapport by committing to a regular time and reliability. And then you want to make it meaningful. You want to think of activities that bring people closer together, which everyone will enjoy. And this is going to be different from friend to friend, person to person, or social circle to social circle. The kind of cool thing about the pandemic was that a lot of different things emerged that weren't really there before. There are streaming platforms where you could watch a movie as a group. There are also classes you could take remotely that weren't present before the pandemic, such as Zumba and book clubs and other hobbies. So think of those kind of meaningful ways to make connections. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, so if you would like to schedule an appointment to see either of us, or you'd like us to come to your classroom to discuss the different services that we have to offer, here's our contact information. And thank you again. You could have did a lot of things today, but you chose to spend your time with us, and we're so grateful for that. Next slide, please.
I think we're going to have our references popped into chat as well. So if anybody wants to look at any of the information that was provided. Oh.
Natasha or Renee or Charlene, is there anything you'd like to add?
You're on mute.
Just to say that was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I got to say, you know, when Donna was talking about what happened, how things were changing when the pandemic was descending upon us, I was really fighting tears thinking about all those losses and all the trauma and everything. And then when she said, remember the toilet paper, I just lost it. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. It just changed my mood automatically. So thank you for that saving grace.
Mhm.
And I do have to say, I think it was really good to have both the compare and contrast between the things that were very difficult that have made things a much deeper struggle for many people, but also the opportunities we've had to grow and to find new ways of taking care of ourselves, which we might not have ever explored if we hadn't had this moment to consider how important that kind of care of ourselves and our needs are.
Yep.
So say goodbye to our guests. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
joining us.
Thank you.